Around the Kit with Joe Gansas.
Guys, we are back around the kit. I see my first guest on the line, the great Dave Weckl. I'm going to play a little bit of a piece he did a long time ago, and then we're going to pick up the great Dave Weckl after this piece.
And now, back to Around the Kit with Joe Gansas.
Guys, we are back. 646-787-8027. Great little piece there called Bugle Call by my next guest a long time ago. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to Around the Kit the great Dave Weckl. Dave, Joe Gansas, Around the Kit. How are you tonight, brother?
Well, probably a lot warmer than you are, I think.
You know, I was going to get to that. First of all, welcome to the show. Everybody, Dave is in sunny California, and we are in New York. We just got 26 inches of snow, and you're hanging out probably with a T-shirt and shorts on in California.
Well, it's not quite that warm, but I will say, yes, I've done my time in New York and St. Louis, and I know what those winters are, and I'm not sorry to say that I don't miss them. So I hope everybody's okay there and digging out and nothing. I know a lot of people had some rough times, so Mother Nature can be rough for sure.
Yeah, it's something you got to deal with, guys. We're talking to Dave Weckl. I know over the weekend you were at NAMM, and I want to stay with right there for a second before we go back a little bit. I seen you yesterday with NAMM, Thomas Lang, Benny Greb, and the great Tommy Aldridge. What does it mean to you when you get together with these drummers? Is it a really cool space to be, and you get to hang out with these guys and talk drums all night?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, NAMM is kind of a love-hate situation for all of us because you know, we do get to see each other, and we don't really get to see a lot of the guys too often in the year because we're all running around, you know, doing different tours, and we all live in different places. But so NAMM is certainly great for bringing, you know, that camaraderie together, and it's always a wonderfully positive experience. It gets a little diluted and distracted by you know, the overwhelming amount of fans that are there. Actually, you know, it's kind of funny. It's supposed to be a music merchant convention, and there's a lot of people hanging out, which is great, but it doesn't give us a lot of that time that you're talking about, which is really just hanging and talking. But we're all good with it. It's fine. We enjoy you know, meeting and greeting all the people that love what we do as well. So that becomes part of the enjoyment of it as well. Great.
We go back a little bit. Let's go back to Missouri in the 60s. 8 years old, start playing drums. Your father was a piano player. Your mother loved music. Talk to me about growing up in St. Louis, you know, playing drums at an early age, and also with the teachers like Bob Metheny and Joe Bierger.
Yeah, actually pronounced Joe Berger, but he does have a strange spelling there. With
okay.
E. But yeah, you know, 60s. Wow, I'm old. Yeah, growing up in those times was certainly a different time, and especially in the Midwest, it was. You know, I always say there wasn't a whole lot to do other than practice, and that was pretty much the deal. I'm not quite sure why I got into the drums, to be honest. I wanted to play guitar first, and my dad actually got me some lessons on guitar, and I just was immediately obvious to me that I had no interest in doing that whatsoever. And to this day, every time I pick up a guitar, I don't understand it. I don't understand how anybody could play the instrument, but because I'm trying to play a little bit of bass and every once in a while, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet either. But the guitar even less. So
right, okay.
I don't know. I just kind of fell into it, and you know, I always say the drums chose me, and it was just always something that I found I was pretty good at a young age, to be able to copy, you know, drummers on some rock records and play along, and sort of came easy to me. And my dad, as you said, was a piano player. He was just by hobby, really. He really didn't play anywhere out of the house, except in the house. But but he had a bunch of jazz records and turned me on to that whole side of it, which was much more challenging and sort of, piqued the curiosity and of the challenge of trying to play with the jazz guys were playing. And then one day he brought home a Buddy Rich record. I think I was 11 or 12 years old, and that was the beginning of the sort of, high geared inspiration and really putting some time in trying to figure that out. And from the Buddy stuff came other big bands, and from that came the fusion records. So that's kind of how it went. And I was an only kid. There was no sibling competition or distraction or any of that stuff from my parents to deal with. It was all about me, and they kind of let me do what I wanted to do and gave me the ability to and the freedom to practice and pretty much whenever I wanted, which is kind of what I did.
Great. And we are so glad you stuck to the drums and didn't pick up that stupid guitar.
Yeah, well, it's very nice of you, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, I am too, to be honest.
Guys, we are talking to the great Dave Weckl. Dave, early on, you 22, 23 years old, you get to work with artists like Paul McCartney, Madonna, Paul Simon, and even stuff like Night Sprite. Talk to me about all these different and sometimes different genres and how they molded you back then to become a better player.
Well, the molding started, well before those years, because I was really listening and studying and playing to a lot of those records that had a lot of different styles going on. So there was some depth of knowledge of the different styles and genres before I got to the East Coast and got into school, and Night Sprite was the first band that was basically built out of a few of us in college, with Paul Adamy and Fred Vigdor and Andy Block in the beginning, and eventually my friend from St. Louis, Jay Oliver, came up and got in the band, and that's when we started to really make some noise with the group and got noticed, and got me my first big break in New York, playing with a group called French Toast, which had Michelle Camillo in it and Anthony Jackson on bass, and that was kind of the beginning of the recommendations to do many other things in New York, and got me sort of into the studio vibe, sort of attempting to follow in the footsteps of Steve Gadd and others, and the studio greats there. That was really my main goal, to try and do that, as well as play with a lot of different jazz artists and such. And so like I said, Night Sprite was an incredible band. I mean, we were all college age and a bunch of kids, but these guys were so talented writing all this music, and we were really good. I mean, it was a really great band, and we got a lot of notoriety locally, and Peter Erskine and a few other drummers and a few other musicians would come out and check us out on occasion. And that was certainly responsible for my big break. Peter was the one that recommended me for that French Toast gig. And then after that is when things like I never actually did anything with Paul McCartney, but you were correct in saying Paul Simon. That was kind of the first big tour, coming straight from doing club dates in New York, going into playing 60,000 seat stadiums with Simon and Garfunkel. It was a little bit of a shock, but yeah, then the studio thing sort of happened after that, and the recommendations. I mean, it's kind of how the business works. It's people hear about somebody that can do this and can do that, and so if you get the call and you get the shot and you can actually do those things, then that's the way sort of climb up the ladder.
So, Dave, when you got the call or the chance to work with the tremendous Chick Corea, what was that like? And did that really change a lot of things for Dave Weckl?
Well, it's that whole thing was another result of recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
The late great Michael Brecker was mostly responsible for recommending me to Chick, and then Chick heard me on the Michelle Carmilla record, and he happened to be in town in New York with a night off, which is unheard of, and I was playing at a place there with Tom Kennedy, my buddy, bass player that is in my current bands, and we were playing there with Bill Connors, and Chick walked in, and I saw him walk in, and it was, I think at the same time, my floor tom and my cymbal stand, which was all on one stand at the time, fell over. I think I either hit it or did something, and it was I'll never forget the moment. It was like it was yesterday. We're talking 1984. So yeah, that was, he invited me to play and said he's got this young bass player, Patitucci, and so we got together, and that was the beginning of the Electric Band, and it was, Chick was one of those guys that I was listening to, and mostly because of Steve Gadd being on those records, and so I knew a lot about Chick's playing, and sort of fell right in, and it was a great chemistry because I was sort of molded into playing with him with all those records. So we had a great time, and of course it threw all of us into international spotlight that we wouldn't have ever experienced without that kind of exposure. And Chick was just great in inviting us in to be free to create, and it was quite an experience.
Just tremendous stuff. I remember the first time I heard it, I was actually in a studio jamming, and the owner of the studio, who is a huge Dave Weckl fan, just played it, and I was like, what's going on right now? It was just that inspiring. Guys, we're talking to the great Dave Weckl. Dave, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about drumming in general, because I've been thinking about this lately. I've been playing 34 years, and I've always played match grip. Now, follow me on this. We never want to tell anybody in life they can't do anything. My least favorite word is can't. I never use it. But do you think it's almost a little too late, because I've been using match grip all my life, to start playing traditional now? You think it might be, a little harder because I'm older?
Well, I'm like you, Joe. I don't really like that word "can't." My father sort of busted me when I was a kid about that word, so I sort of grew up not using it so much myself. So I'm gonna go ahead on record and say it's never too late.
Okay, good.
For anything, of course, it does take understanding of how it works. The balance of it, and most importantly, if you really want to be successful in playing traditional grip, you sort of have to follow the tradition of where it came from and set up the drums to accommodate the grip, because it's all about the angles and the heights, and all you got to do is spend 5 minutes watching Buddy Rich and seeing how he sat and how the stick, where the drum is, positioned on his body. And I'm talking mainly snare drum here, but that is, kind of the main focus of the tradition is the snare. And it's funny you should mention that, because I just somebody posted something on Facebook tonight. It was an old Buddy Rich thing about why he plays traditional grip versus matched, and he starts out by saying this is match grip, and it's just wrong. Now the traditional grip is the correct grip. So I was kind of laughing, but because for me the traditional grip, it's not about the technique that of it versus matched. really has is the reason that I play it. It's really about the touch and the sound contrast that is possible because it's so naturally easy to get up on the tip of the stick, and that's there's a term called tipping that from the old jazz cats that you would just tip the time and get on the tip of the stick on the snare and even on the cymbal occasionally, and that is really hard to get that sound match grip. I mean, you can do it. I mean, just Bill Stewart is. When I first heard Bill Stewart, I just could not believe that he actually didn't play traditional because it sounds like he plays traditional. Normally, I can tell a match grip player because it sounds a little bit more, I guess, monotonal in the sense that the sound doesn't change so much on the snare, especially. But Bill pulls it off better than anybody that I've seen and heard. But it's a lot of maintenance to attempt to keep both grips going at a high level, and most guys, unless you got a lot of time, I certainly don't do it. My match grip chops are nowhere near what my traditional are, simply because I spend most of the time concentrating on the traditional. I'm still trying to, figure things out. I go back and mention Buddy Rich already, but of course he was one of my most heavy inspirations, and still is. And now with with the internet and YouTube, and I mean obviously it's been there for a while, but when I was growing up, it most certainly wasn't. So to be able to see what guys were doing, you either have to wait until they appeared on TV or possibly came through your town to go see them, and even then it was kind of that one time shot. You really didn't get to see and study and go back and look at everything, and now there's so much information available to just go and look at, and so I'm sort of going back into my childhood and reliving a lot of those experiences of listening to Buddy and trying to figure it out, and now actually kind of looking at, I mean, I've been doing this for years, but it never gets dull or boring. So I'm always looking at it going, okay, now wait a minute, let me see what he's doing, trying to do that. So, yeah, the traditional grip is it's definitely an art. It's a lot of ways to approach doing it. But I always say, if you want to learn the tradition, you want to learn about that, go back and look at the guys that invented it and taught us all how to do it.
Great. Guys, we're talking to the great Dave Weckl. Dave, what's the main thing you want to obtain every time a Dave Weckl sits behind the kit and plays? What do you want to bring out to the crowd every time you sit behind the set?
Well, I want to be free to be able to communicate in that moment the expression that I want to carry through the kit with the people that I'm playing with, depending on what band that is, what music it is, what musicians I'm playing with. And I just want to do that with no distractions, and that's really the bottom line. I mean, that's really what I want to be able to do. I don't want to be physically or mentally distracted. I don't want to be distracted by bad sound. I don't want to be distracted by something stupid that I did with my setup because I didn't take the time to really, take care in getting everything positioned exactly how I want it. And some of us, we, even me at times, we don't have time to make everything perfect. But I've spent a career analyzing things that create those distractions and try to take care of them one by one. And most of them is it all starts with the mental aspect. If you're not free and clear to be able to go and play, then you're thinking about other stuff, and that obviously doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So try to keep our personal lives all straight to make sure that there's no nothing going on there. And then, getting on stage, obviously we don't want any conflicts going on with bandmates and stuff like that. So
right.
a lot of it comes down to personal, relationship stuff that you want to try to make cool. And then, if all that is rocking, then it becomes, the immediate stuff on stage,
right.
The setup of your own drums, making sure you're as comfortable as you can be, that the drums are tuned the way you want them, and got all the gear you want to use. And then, the sound aspect becomes probably one of the most difficult distractions to overcome, because we're dealing with usually somebody else controlling that, which is the biggest reason that I took most of that on myself as well. From a very early age, I started miking my own kit and putting it through my own system and using my own mixer. And I do that 98% of the times, I would say, still today with my own group and others, just so that, A, I can get the drums to the front of the house like I envision them, and B, so that I can hear everybody else on stage, so that I'm actually, playing with the people that I'm playing with, that I can really hear what they're doing. And thanks to in-ear monitoring systems from Shure, and the way that I have all my system designed, it's a self-contained system, and that is that allows me to sort of be in my zone, in my place on stage every time I play, because the way that I approach it, every time I sit at the kit, I approach it as it's possibly my last time, because we never know about those things.
Right.
Life has a strange way of intervening and making things profoundly not cool. So every time I play, I don't want any of those external things that can mess it up for reasons that I am in control with. I'll have to deal with the ones that I'm not in control with, but I'll try to be in control as much as I can, so that when we make the music, there's nothing in the way between me and the listener.
Great, guys. We're talking to the great Dave Weckl, and almost a part two to that. Just real fast, if we can, what should every drummer never be afraid to do what behind the kit? And I'll give you my answer after that. What should every drummer, when he gets behind the kit, never be afraid to do?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question. I hesitate to say be honest with what they want to convey, because that can be dangerous advice. You gotta play by the rules, and you gotta understand that most of the time, us as drummers are there to support and to support everyone around us. That basically is what gets us called back on the gigs. It's not about how fast your feet are, your hands, or how good your drum solos are. That's the icing on the cake if needed, but it's really about the support that we give the people that are hiring us to make them want to call us back. So, however, within that, there is that thing of just being honest with what you want to say behind the drums, and not thinking you have to impress someone, or especially other drummers. They usually don't get you gigs. So
absolutely. You could agree or disagree. I think one thing that I try to never be afraid to do is take a chance behind a set. You never know. I'm okay with almost failure, Dave. If I get to that point, I'm okay. But I'm going to try in my life. So if I take a chance once in a while and it doesn't work out, that's okay. Because Joe Gans took a chance. It didn't work out. Now I know. But I think that's a decent thing to do. And never be afraid to at least try or take a chance.
Well, like I said, it's a very subjective thing, because I love the spirit and the attitude of that in general, but but you also have to, I mean, I disagree with it on the stance of that you have to have a little bit more respect for the people you're playing with, that, you know, your chance taking could mess up what somebody else is trying to do. And if that's the case, then that's not really fair, in my opinion. So I also, like I said, I agree with you, and I do it all the time within limits.
Yeah, sure.
I set limits for myself so that chance taking, you know, generally doesn't, or at least it hopefully doesn't, it's always in my mind, not distract someone so much that they're that it messes them up. But chance taking, you know, like I said, with limits is part of the experience of making music to me, and you know, so I would agree with it to a point.
Cool. Dave, I got about two more, and I'll let you go. Talk to me about a 29-year-old drummer who is on the stage as they're calling maybe the greatest ensemble ever. You, Steve Gadd, and Vinny Calilita. Dave, I just got goosebumps, I swear to you, just saying that. Talk to me about that night, and was it as magical as we all thought it was?
In short, yes.
That was tremendous, bro.
Yeah, everything that you think that possibly could be. It certainly was for me. I mean, I think all of us, you know, any drummer that was there in respect, in memory of Buddy, you know, it was a very special evening and a special project and a special event in the first place. And I know for me, I'm sure I speak for Vinny too, because I mean both Vinny and I we've had this discussion quite a bit about how much Steve means to us, and not that Steve is that much older than us, but he was certainly for me one of my most important mentors, and still is, and Vinny the same. He's a few years older than me as well, so I you know, always you know, looked up to Vinny and was inspired by. So for me to be sitting in that position was truly slightly intimidating and very awesome.
You know, Dave, I've seen thousands of videos, and I'm not blowing smoke, brother. You could. This is the truth come from me to you. It is the best video I've ever seen on drums. Now, there might be different kind of videos on drums, but to me, it brings up one word. It was just magical, and I thank you for that night. I mean, I got goosebumps just now, and just a tremendous night. And everybody that watches it tells me the same thing, and it was just a great night honoring, you know, Buddy. Great.
Yep, I agree, and thank you for the accolades. I appreciate that.
Dave, I got one more before I let you go, and I appreciate this time, Dave weckl, so much. Love watching you play. All my listeners all week would text to me, what time is he going to be on? What time is he going to be on? I said, who knows? He might not even call. I'm only kidding. But we're happy you called. And what do you want people to say after they see you live? What do you want them to take from that when they seen you play?
Well, I want the emotional aspect to get across, and I think it's one of the things that maybe I know it was for me. It took me a while to understand what the heck it was I was responding to when I listened to somebody like Buddy Rich or Steve Gadd or Tony Williams or whoever it might be. You know, I mean, there's always technique, there's always the chops, there's all the flash and the entertainment value, but you know, it was the emotional aspect of understanding, you know, the knowledge of tradition, the depth of the history, and the precision of a lot of time spent understanding the foundations of the technical aspect. A lot of people say, you don't need a lot of technique. You know, a lot of great players didn't have a lot of technique, and you know, that's all good and fine. I personally was always turned on and attracted to the guys that did have good technique because I thought and felt that they could express better exactly what they wanted to do. And that's a personal preference, and that's what makes us all different, which is cool. But I realized later, and then I saw some videos too later on of interviews with guys like Buddy Rich, and he actually said exactly what I'm about to say, which is that, you know, the guys that win on the kit, the guys that figure it out how to convey the emotion, are the ones that he likes. And it just hit a chord with me. It's like, yep, it's exactly right. It's like the guys that actually figure out how to get the emotional feeling of what they're trying to put through the music, not just the drums, but the music, you know, playing with other people. Those are the guys, those are the people that I'm attracted to as musicians in general, not just drummers. But so for me, that is what I try to do every time that I play, is be connected with the musicians that I'm playing with first, and then try to, you know, express that through the instrument of, you know, the feeling that I want to create in that music. And then hopefully the listener gets that emotional aspect, and it creates those things that we call goosebumps when we hear things, when we, you know, and that's what, to me, we're responding to. If you get past the technique and past all of the flash and all of that stuff, and understand where it's coming from, you know, it's coming from an emotional place and a you know, I guess I could say a spiritual place as well, and and that's the beauty of making music, and it's what it does for all of us, really, is it creates a feeling, you know. And a lot of music today has kind of lost that. You know, it's about other things, and a lot of drummers, the way they play and what they do today, I think have lost that as well. Not to take anything away from anybody, that's not the point. Right. It's just it's coming from a different place. So my advice: never forget the tradition. Go back and study it, and learn as much about as many styles as you possibly can. You know, to be a knowledgeable, in-depth kind of drummer that can get your hands around a lot of different styles and understand the tradition of it. It's what I still try to do, and that's what's fun for me. So
great, Dave. My daughter is 8 years old. Her name is Samantha, and she is my everything. That's the best way to put it. I think about her constantly. She gives me motivation. You have a daughter named Claire. Does she ever give you that motivation you need when you're down, you know, especially playing?
In short, yes.
Good. Great.
I think those of us that have children, we know what that is. There's nothing quite like that bond and that blood love that you know, especially, you know, dads and daughters are a special thing. So you know, and I'm very happy to have that with my daughter Claire, and she's you know, she's a great kid, and she's very musically educated as well, and she's a very good singer, and she's not pursuing it professionally, but she's quite a talented young lady, actually. So
that's great.
We still have a lot of fun with the music on a fun level. Let's put it that way.
Dave, at the end of my interview, we've come to that time, and I can't thank you for this intimate time, what you've done for my show and me personally. You're a gentleman and one of the best drummers ever. Don't play the role now. Don't be modest. You know, it's okay. Everybody says it. You are just that awesome. Thank you. We hope you never stop playing. And at the end of my interviews, I ask my guests one question. It's the answer. I don't debate it or dispute it. On a scale of 1 to 10, Dave, be honest. Rate this interview.
Rate this interview. Oh, well, gee, I'd have to give it a 9.5.
9.5 is good.
That's right. No, it was really good. Like I said, well, actually, I didn't say it. I texted you. I said, Joe, why are you playing something so old, man?
It's so great.
But, the old stuff is great, and that was fun, but, it was like
cool.
5 lifetimes ago for me. But anyway, I do want to say something, though, that just for the listeners, in case they're not aware of my current projects, which,
Go ahead.
We're all going to stop playing at some point, but it's hopefully not anywhere close in my future. I'm still out there rocking and touring and recording and playing, and it's about all I do. So, but I've got a couple new projects out there. One of them is my acoustic group, with Makoto Ozone and Gary Meek and Tom Kennedy, and the other one is my Convergence project with Jay Oliver, and both of those I've elected not to put those on iTunes and such yet because I am doing my best to honestly try to fight this the situation that the business is in, which is all the streaming audio and all the stuff for free and all that stuff. It hurts the business, and so for right now I'm kind of being like Adele, and I'm selling it only from my website, and that's DaveWeckl.com, of course. But those products are all there, and my new acoustic group. We just have a new live DVD of the band that is releasing Thursday, and
awesome.
We'll have those for sale on the website too. So that's new live DVD of the acoustic group, my acoustic band.
Great. Dave, I forgot to wish you a belated birthday. I know 2 weeks ago you turned 35, so happy birthday, brother.
That's good, Joe. Yeah, I think everybody that knows me knows that ain't even close, but that's okay. That's
Dave,
right.
I thank you so much, man. It's been great. You're a gentleman, and I hope down the road we could do it again.
All right, Joe. Thanks very much for your time. Good luck to all the drummers out there.
All right, Dave. Dave Weckl, everybody. Thanks, brother. Good luck. God bless.
All right, Joe. You too. Thank you.
Dave Weckl was on my